The champ is here. Honored to be joined by the king of television, the Ring of Honor World Television Champion Samoa Joe, here on Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. Joe, so glad you're joining me today.
Oh, it's good to be here. How you doing?
Very, very good. So let's start with what you've got going on right now. You've just rekindled your rivalry with CM Punk in a trios match and in the semifinals of the Owen Hart tournament, and the aftermath of the Owen Hart tournament too. What's it like to relive something that was such a big part of your early career?
I mean, really it's to be expected. I found that, throughout my career, the same cast of characters seem to have their head pop up. And, Punk is definitely within that realm of those cast of characters. So to see us back in the ring against each other one more time, it's no big surprise.
What's it like from that period of time? And I don't know if you've heard it from anybody, in the modern times now, but like knowing that you had a body of work that influenced like a generation of wrestling. What is that kind of like to look back at now?
I'm glad, really my goals and what I hope to achieve in the ring really have to do with, the impact I leave with fans if they've enjoyed themselves after, watching me perform and do what I do. So, to see that that work went on to help inspire, a newer generation of grapplers to get into the ring and apply their trade and do what they do. It's an awesome, unexpected kind of side effect of what I've done with my work. So it's pretty cool. Like, you don't really expect that's going to happen, that you'd be, have any influence on anybody making any decisions or, pursuing this as a career. But anytime you hear it, it's a little surreal and cool.
How have you both changed, and what was kind of the same since the last time you guys were in the ring together?
Just experience. I mean, just a treasure trove and a wealth of experience from when we, first locked up. We were very new in the industry, still very much a journeyman learning. You never stop learning, but at the same time, we definitely knew a hell of a lot less back then.
So you're now the Ring of Honor Television Champion. You're front and center on the poster for Death Before Dishonor coming to Trenton on July 21st. How did you feel to see ROH back shortly after you were back in AEW? And what's kind of your thoughts on this version of Ring of Honor?
Much like, you alluded to earlier, I think Ring of Honor has had a tremendous impact and influence on the industry as a whole. When you look, especially throughout the past few decades at, the top stars in this industry, you'll find that many of them, grace the ring of Honor, and to, help it make this next evolution to, build it back up as a place for new talent to kind of make their stake in the world, and to be a part of that. It's a very, very fun process for me.
When you look back at the old Ring of Honor, what Samoa Joe matches come to your mind? Maybe what matches of some other people, pop into your mind as kind of those seminal moments, I guess?
I leave that stuff up to people, man. I think declaring your own seminal moments, if you're doing that, it's probably not that great of a moment. I think the people out there who were, especially the hardcore fan base that we had at Ring of Honor at the time, who were following us, via DVD, which seems so archaic now. They know what those moments are, and I think they understand that. As far as like other guys, there's just so many great matches, so many people that came into their own, Generation Next, all those guys, and it was just a really awesome group that came together. Homicide, I think, is very much an unsung hero of Ring of Honor. I think it's somebody, he's a guy who brought it every night, main evented a lot of shows for the company, and his legacy, it was very important, especially for his connection to a lot of the Northeast wrestlers who he helped foster and bring into the company.
The first time I ever saw you live was at the At Our Best show in Elizabeth, New Jersey, in the steel cage match against Jay Briscoe, which I had the chance to bring up to him actually before they had the ROH show at Madison Square Garden, the thing with New Japan back when they did that show. And his comment of it was, "Well, that was very colorful." What do you remember about that particular night?
Yeah, it definitely was colorful, and it was it was an interesting match with a very special performer. And just the night was right, the how everything kind of set up, and even some really weird, unexpected mishaps, like the cage breaking off the face wash, and him making a quick scramble right there. I mean, there was so much of that match that was chaotic and not really supposed to happen, and so much that came off perfectly that I look back on it fondly. It was kind of the epitome of a blood and guts feud. And if anybody saw what Jay looked like that night, there's plenty of blood to go around.
Yeah, and it's crazy to look back at those cards and just see, like we talked about a little bit of the influence of Ring of Honor and just just the people on that card. I think it was CM Punk against AJ Styles with Ricky Steamboat as the referee that night. Man, so many names on that card up and down, and even some of those shows when they had the pre-shows beforehand, you'd still find people that were still around. I remember seeing Matt Sydal and Delirious on a opening match on one of those Elizabeth shows back then too. Was it the style itself in Ring of Honor? Is it the people within it that kind of have held up this brand? Because I feel like this brand kind of holds time a little bit better than some others, when you look back on them.
When you come to Ring of Honor, I think it's really it was the situation that kind of spawned it that really was kind of responsible for the performers. And it basically was, at the time, WCW had closed down, ECW, if it hadn't have closed down by then, was very much on its last legs. And there wasn't many places for people to ply their trade outside of, WWE. So, Ring of Honor became kind of a collecting point for a lot of talent who didn't fit at the time, especially that WWE mold. And it was a place where guys could, have an audience and develop a character and, and become somewhat of a star outside of, those traditional bounds. And I think that's really, especially early on with all the talent that was there, was, the real driving force behind the company and why, so many talented grapplers found their way there, because there really wasn't many other places to go. I mean, Japan at the time was very much, kind of the business was receding and there was a lot of split off in a lot of companies, but I can definitely tell you the paydays probably weren't as good as when I started in Japan. So it was just kind of a financially harsh time for a lot of independent wrestlers in the industry. So Ring of Honor kind of provided that, safe harbor where you could get over and, get back into the business and make your name.
Is it frustrating a bit that original Ring of Honor didn't maybe reach the mainstream interest level, for what it was, just for how good it was?
No, because, like I said, the fan base at the time was so passionate, and it was, and it granted it had a, a niche appeal. It wasn't as, nationally known, but, I think with Ring of Honor, the strength was, you can have a couple thousand people in that building just going crazy, or even, maybe just under 1,000, and the place would be rocking, as opposed to trying to pack out a stadium with maybe casual fans. And that worked for the size they were at and where they were at the time. But like all things in business, the business must grow or it's going to die. So there was always growing pains down the road, but to see it still surviving in this incarnation today is it's pretty incredible.
I wonder too if the modern fan can even kind of understand what that Ring of Honor was, and when they see what wrestling looks like now.
I'm not too hung up on that.
Yeah.
Because you got to realize, the modern fan is essentially what you're saying is a new fan, and you can't expect new fans to know all the history and to know everything. What you hope is that you can get them interested with the current wrestling today, and maybe have them look back and do a little bit of discovery. I think. Kind of saying, oh, fans just don't understand what it was like. I mean, no, because nobody was there. You really had to be in those buildings. It wasn't a televised product. It wasn't a YouTube product. It wasn't streamed. You had to wait for DVDs to release. And, you talked about it on message boards for, a few weeks or even months at a time before you ever actually got to lay your eyes on the show. So it was just a very different time and a very different media model. And as we've seen in these past 3 decades, just the entire media model's flipped on its head, and it's very, very different from then now. So I'm not too hung up on that. I just hope people tune in if they enjoy what they see and they want to see more. They can delve into the history and find even more enjoyment.
Yeah, that was one of the things I thought was cool about the way that AEW presented your match with Punk, was they had the whole history package surrounding it. If people want to go, obviously it's on their platform, Honor Club also, so it makes sense to show people that. But just to be able to show people the differences between then and now, and even some of your promos, it seemed like, that could have been today if you wanted it to be. So I know you and Zack Sabre Jr. have had some interaction on the Ring of Honor Club show. He's kind of maybe getting together at some point, and I think everyone who watches would enjoy that greatly. What does he do that makes him an intriguing matchup for you? And what would Samoa Joe versus Zack Sabre be like?
Zack Sabre, he's stylistically, he's very, very unique. And people like to, I think, say, oh, well, he uses like an older style. No, he uses a very modern style that just has a lot of, old and sensibilities to it. And he's just a tremendous athlete. He's very, very, very entertaining, very, very skilled at what he does. And, sometimes you need that kind of contrast in styles. Styles make fights. And I think, somewhere down the line, me and Zach would be a very, very interesting one.
Thinking about styles with you, though, you work well with basically everyone, I can think of. You had one of my favorite Kurt Angle matches. You had probably my favorite Brock Lesnar match. What's kind of your secret? What's kind of your approach to being able to sort of match anybody in just about any style you can work in?
People want to see a fight. So we go in there and we get into a fight. And I think that's really the gist of what I do. I don't try to make it pretty. I don't try to make it very, very artistic and eloquent. I try to go in there and smash somebody's face and show everybody I have every intention of doing so. And, a lot of times, by reciprocation, my opponent starts to kind of match that energy and, the matches turn out to be what they be.
Do you still train in a lot of different disciplines too?
Yeah. Obviously you got to stay in shape. And honestly, martial arts at this point in my life and my career is probably one of the best ways to do so. Much more friendly in certain aspects of my joints and some other aspects, not so much. But, it definitely helps to stay pretty crisp, get some rounds kickboxing, get some rounds on the ground and make sure your entire body understands what's expected of it week after week.
I was curious with the title match at the Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view announced as Claudio Castagnoli versus Mark Briscoe, how you would break down that match. You're probably very familiar with both wrestlers.
Very familiar, and essentially, it's the Terminator against, the somewhat unpenetrable Mark Briscoe. He's, Claudio is incredibly dangerous. His skill level's off the charts, and probably one of the greatest athletes in the industry, period. And I don't think many people would disagree with you. Pound for pound, one of the strongest dudes I've ever met. And, just every bit the grappler that he is as advertised. And, Briscoes are they're bred one way, and it's crazy and full speed ahead at all times. And I think Mark definitely exemplifies that.
What did the TV title match with Mark that you had mean to you?
It meant a lot. The Briscoes have been stalwarts in Ring of Honor. When you talk about the legacy of Ring of Honor and guys who held down the company for longer than almost anybody, whose blood, sweat, tears, heart were invested in the company, you think of the Briscoe brothers. And, with Jay not being here and Mark carrying on the legacy and probably being one of the bravest individuals I've ever met in my life and doing so with no hesitation and, full speed ahead, as his brother would have wanted. It speaks a lot to their legacy and the men that they are.
What has made AEW and Ring of Honor a good stop for you at this point in your career? You had some kind of strange endings in WWE, just I think unexpected for some people that you ended up leaving there. But what makes AEW and Ring of Honor such a good choice for you at this stage?
There's a place for me to apply my skill and my talents, and I think that is the greatest opportunity one can hope for. I think a lot of people like to make a big to-do about where you're working or what happened, where and when, but I've found I've never quite fallen off the tree. I've always seemed to land on my feet decently well. And AEW has provided me a great place to continue doing what I'm doing and entertaining fans. And that's really all you can ask for, especially for someone like me.
It's great to see you back in the ring again, but I will say that I thought you were awesome on commentary and kind of a breath of fresh air when you were doing that. What was kind of your approach to that? Having not really done it, I don't think a whole lot before. And is it something you would think of doing after your in-ring career is over? As
far as commentary, it was very somewhat unexpected kind of little stint there. But at the same time, I knew very little about it. I'm not a traditionally trained broadcaster, so it was just a lot of listening, on the job training, and kind of figuring out the lay of the land and how things go. And you don't get much time to do that, especially in WWE. But luckily, we had that opportunity, and it was fun. It was fun when I did it. It's enjoyable to be able to be part of the storytelling, especially for a lot of your contemporaries who you respect greatly and you want to see them do well. So it was just a really fun opportunity, and I enjoyed it. And is it in my future? I don't know. I've stopped trying to predict my future. It's gone so chaotic and crazy, but I just am kind of riding the wave.
Yeah, like I said, I think it should be, personally, just because it's like I really enjoyed listening to you. And heck, you've already called a WrestleMania and one with a rain delay, which is you rocked a poncho very impressively on that occasion. So congratulations on that stuff too. I really it was nice to see. So what can you tell me about Twisted Metal and Sweet Tooth and the series that you have coming up on Peacock?
So we premiered July 27th on Peacock. I'm looking forward to people getting to see it. I think it's a really fun show, a really fun watch. Basically it kind of takes from the original PlayStation game. I play Needles Kane, a.k.a. Sweet Tooth, a psychopathic clown who drives a weapon-laden ice cream truck and murders my way across America. So, it's a bit of a weird pitch, but if you're in for a little bit of dark comedy fun, please tune in.
So you were the physical body of the guy, and it's
Indeed.
Somebody else doing the voice.
Yes, Will Arnett.
Will Arnett. So, what is it like being something totally different than Samoa Joe?
It's a fantastic experience. I was very, very fortunate. Both the cast and crew were awesome, and made my transition into Needles Kane very, very easy. And it's just, it was a lot of fun. It's very fun to inhabit a new character, especially one that's, pretty iconic for a lot of people, especially my generation. So, it was an opportunity I jumped at, and it was a very, very great experience, and I'm excited for everybody to see the show.
Yeah, I was wondering with somebody else being on The Voice. I mentioned this to Damian Priest back when we had him on ages ago, but I feel like you're another wrestler who would be really cool on voiceovers. But any future in that? Have you done that?
Yeah, currently, we Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will be out next year. Actually, I just recorded the other day, so I'm really excited about some of the new things that I can't tell you about that they're adding into the game. But that'll be coming out soon, and a few other projects. But I'm still under NDA right now, so I can't really talk about them.
Understood. I know you mentioned before, I asked you about old ROH matches and stuff like that. Do you have favorite opponents in different places where you are over time of your career? Is there anybody that there are 2 or 3 that maybe stand out in different places you worked?
There's so many. I obviously, I think anytime me and AJ got into a ring, it's very second nature to the both of us. And like I said, Punk, although we haven't been in the ring in years, it, kind of didn't really feel like any time had passed at all. Aside from that, guys like Christopher Daniels. There's just the classic opponents that I've had over my career: Kurt Angle, Lesnar, Reigns. There's a plethora of people that I've had the ability to face, and it's always been fun in its own different ways.
And just, I guess, looking forward, I know you seem like you're a very in the moment type of guy, and just kind of take what you have when you have it. But what are the goals for you at this point in your career moving forward as you move ahead?
Obviously we want to, especially with my time now in AEW and ROH, we want to help, build out the brand and the product, and attract more fans to it, and be able to travel to more places around the world and entertain those fans. There's just more things kind of on the way here and there, and hopefully I'll be able to entertain you in those mediums also.
And it's so important and I say this to so many people, whether or not AEW or ROH is your thing or not, the health and the growth of that company is just so important for the industry. Obviously they're off to a great start, but do you kind of see that also? It's just that it's so important to be there, kind of on the ground floor of sort of building a foundation there.
Oh, incredibly important. And I've been a part of this process a few times now, to be a part of it again. I've always found great joy into adding to whatever I'm involved with, and that's very much my goal here in AEW and ROH is to help add to what we've built and continue its expansion across the world.
So we're going to move on to something we call the 3 count now. It's going to be 3 quick questions and your answers. First one I had to, but what was your reaction the first time that you heard the Steiner Math promo about you on Impact Wrestling?
Oh, I was there for it live, and it was hilarious. I mean, I was standing on the other side of the camera, dying laughing. And to Scott's credit, I think it was only a 2-take go, and I think the first take was just because maybe Petey broke because we were all nobody was really expecting it. So, yeah, it was hilarious. It still is.
Yeah, I was very happy a few weeks ago. We had Braun Breaker on, and I was able to reference that to him also. So, always fun to bring that one up. But next question, you have a shirt that says Joe, and it's my friend Joe's favorite, I'm pretty sure, because he can wear it. If you had to go by any other name other than Joe, what would it be? Samoa, something else? You just have to pick something. What would you go with?
Tough one. I think James, kind of sounds a little bit regal.
Nice. Samoa James. And then last question, I was, just doing the research on this, I realized you were I believe the first championship to win wrestler to win a championship in WWE and NXT, TNA Impact, AEW, and ROH now. To be that successful everywhere you've gone, I know, championships mean different things to different people in wrestling, but just looking at your resume, it's incredible that you've had those kind of stops pretty much everywhere you've been. Do you ever stop and think about that and just, what is it about Samoa Joe that's caused that success literally everywhere?
I don't think about it, man. Really what I'm focused on is kind of what's next, not what we've already done. And I think that's kind of important for everybody. I think a lot of people can get hung up with themselves and their own legacy. I'm not super concerned with that. I'm just concerned about, what's the next cool thing we're going to do and where we're going to do it.
But you're consistent. I think that it seems like there's been a consistency over the course of your career. People know what they, what to always expect from you.
Well, and there should be, there's an expectation, and try to go out there and give the fans consistently what they ask for.
Very good. Well, Samoa Joe, thank you so much for joining me today on Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. Once again, we'll mention Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, Trenton, New Jersey, Friday, July 21st. Always nice to talk to you, and thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, pleasure.
All right. Thank you.